And so I'm going to throw up the video.
So today we recorded 16 cues from Northern Wilds and Algarock, and we had just amazing musicians. So we have brass and strings here today, and yeah, we got through a bunch of cues. The recording process is pretty fascinating and somewhat complicated actually, but I had all the music written up on my computer, and it was MIDI generated parts that we were hearing in the game for a while. And now we take those cues and we get to record them with real players. And so what happens is we get all the parts printed up for the players. The control room gets all the clicks set up so we can sync the music back into the video game the way it's supposed to be. The control room basically just feeds me the information of, hey, you know, we're going to be at this measure at this time, and they also are second pair of ears and third pair of ears to let me know if things were in tune, out of tune, the rhythms were good or bad. So we all kind of work together, myself out here conducting and the control room, to make sure we get the best takes and the best recordings possible with the musicians. My favorite part of the day, well actually the whole day has been like a dream come true for me, to be able to record my music in such an amazing facility with fantastic players and a great team of people. That's been a dream come true for me. So the whole day has been awesome, but my favorite part was right at the beginning. Everything's kind of getting settled, the control room's getting their stuff together, we got the players coming in, they're ready to play. It's silence, and we do the first downbeat. You hear the first note of the music come to life. That to me is always just a fantastically amazing moment. You just hear that, and everything just starts to come to life in the air, and it's just a really cool spot to be in.
Yay!
Awesome.
Very good job.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Debuff's Gaming News Dispelled Wildstar Night. I'm Liette, and I'll be your host this evening. With me are Cannon and Soul Guardian, who will both be leading guilds in Wildstar as part of the Grievance Gaming organization. Cannon will be leading Grievance's Dominion Guild, and Soul Guardian will be leading the Exiles Guild. Say hi, guys.
Oh,
Howdy.
nice.
We're delighted to announce this evening that we have a really special guest joining us straight from the Wildstar development team, Wildstar lead composer Jeff Kurtenacker. Tonight we'll be interviewing Jeff, hi, and asking him about his music and its role in Wildstar. We're going to open it up to questions towards the end of the cast for the audience and chat, so please hold your questions till then, and we'll be checking them over. So to get us started, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's wonderful to have such a talented and amazing composer with us, so thank you. We're excited you can be here.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really glad to be able to hang out with you guys for a little bit and talk about the music for Wildstar and music for games in general. So it's great.
This is awesome.
Yes, it is. Well, Jeff, please tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background?
Well, I'm Jeff Kurtenacker, and I like long walks on the beach and sunsets and puppies. I actually grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I remember from a very, very early age, I wanted to do music and write music. So I just kind of pursued that, I guess, from about middle school on. And I really didn't know where it would lead or, what would come of it. But I went to college and got a degree in music composition. And then from there, moved out to Los Angeles and I went through the UCLA Extension film scoring program, and that got me some kind of hands-on training with film composing and working with media and technology. Because up until that point, I really hadn't done a whole lot with music and computers and different MIDI sequencing and things like that. And so got more hands-on with that, and just started to kind of find my footing out here in California. And of course, there's a lot of people doing what I want to do out here, and so it was easy to bump into people and make friends and find people that needed music for something, a film or a commercial or who knows what, and all kinds of opportunities. And I just kind of started, getting rolling with that stuff, and it's been an interesting adventure, but that's kind of the quick history of where I've kind of come from, and it's just kind of interesting to see the progression of when I was a little kid, thinking, playing piano in my mom and dad's house, thinking, oh, wouldn't it be cool someday to write music for a living? And I remember thinking specifically, even if it was jingles, like if I was writing the next Snickers bar jingle, like I would be okay with that. If I was getting paid to write music on some level, I would be like, this is cool, man. I've arrived. And then I don't think I'd be very good at jingles now that I think about it. But it is interesting to just to kind of look back and see how that progression happened from kind of having that dream of doing it someday, and then through all the twists and turns that life throws at you, and now being here on staff at Carbine Studios and getting to work on such an amazing project like Wildstar, it's pretty great. So it's been an adventure.
Oh, I bet. Gosh. Well, thank you. You have a long background in music. So you say in middle school, you decided that's when you wanted to do it. Did you plan to do big orchestral compositions then, or did you know?
I wasn't quite sure. I mean, I grew up learning to play piano. I remember taking piano lessons, and I kind of got bored with it. I liked music, but I got bored pretty quickly with the etudes and kind of the classical approach to learning piano and all the scales and chords and all that boring stuff, which now, by the way, I love. I geek out on music theory and scales and modes and chords and everything. But back then, as a kid, I didn't want to practice and the normal kid stuff. But I remember being heavily influenced, because I was a piano player, being heavily influenced by people like Billy Joel and Elton John and Bruce Hornsby and these piano players that were doing music that I really was enjoying, and I thought, I want to do that. I want to do like some pop piano stuff. And so then I started learning their songs, and then I started from there kind of writing my own. And I think that's how my style has some sort of pop influences, because while I love Bach and Beethoven and those guys, I also love Prince and Billy Joel and and Van Halen and some of these other eclectic pop rock references. And so it's kind of these forces acting on my impressionable childhood years that kind of gave me the whatever style I have today. So anyway, back to the question. Yes, I was learning piano. I wanted to write music. I didn't know if it was going to be orchestral. I thought maybe I would end up being like a session player on piano or doing some sort of songwriting. But I remember seeing Back to the Future, and I think I've spoken about this before in other places, but I remember seeing Back to the Future and seeing that movie and hearing that score, and it's still such a nostalgic part of my life, that whole movie and that score. And I remember I've never really felt like I heard anything like that before. The way the orchestra, the French horns and those trumpets, and just that iconic theme that runs throughout that movie. And I thought, okay, this would be pretty cool to someday be able to do that. And so when I got into high school, I was given opportunities to write some pieces for choir and band, and I did some percussion ensembles, and I just started to write for whoever I could get together in a room. and I started to learn these instruments and how to write for them. And I get a flute and a sax and a piano and a clarinet, and then, okay, let's write a piece together. And then I go over in the choir room and I'd write something for a couple singers to sing, and that was just began this process of learning the different parts of an orchestra. And I didn't even have, where I went to high school, there was no string section. So is it?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
When I was in high school, it was the exact same thing. We didn't have any strings at all in our band. It was all, you had percussion, which blew out everybody because everybody wanted to play the drums. But anyway,
yeah. And so I was actually a trombone player in band. So I played trombone as well. But so I didn't really have too much interaction with strings until I got to college, and that's when I was like, oh man, the cello is really awesome. The viola, the violin, these are great. And in college is when I really got the opportunity to kind of spread my wings orchestrally. And that's when I found that I loved orchestration, which is a process of taking music from a concept to something that all the parts is balanced within the orchestra. And you have, all the different sections are playing, and who gets what part and what those lines look like. That's the orchestration process, and I fell in love with that, and I fell in love with the blending of different parts of the orchestra, and how that all comes together to make different tones and evokes different emotions. And so that's, I guess, when I really started experimenting with some things. And I was fortunate enough to go to a college where I went to Lawrence University in Appleton, Wisconsin, and it was a smaller conservatory of music. And so, but it was really, really talented players. At the time, I think it was ranked like one of the top 50 conservatories in the country. So there's really high quality players, and to have access to them was awesome. So I would write these woodwind ensembles and these brass ensembles and these string ensembles, and I even wrote a pop musical, and I just wrote whatever I could, and I'd have people play it. And it was a great learning experience. And so by the time I got to college, I pretty much had in my head that I wanted to write film music. And I knew, the funny thing is, game music was like not even on my radar. It was like film music was all that I was thinking about. And I remember bringing that up to a couple of my professors, and they kind of laughed me out of the room. That wasn't considered serious music, and that wasn't like the real, a real musical career. So I didn't listen to him, unfortunately. And I kind of was able to move, after I graduated, move out to Los Angeles, and just started pursuing the dream of, film music or television and something like that. And through some twists and turns, which I'm sure we'll talk about coming up, is I've wound up here, which is great.
Wow.
Well, we're delighted you wound up here, and especially here on our show. So, all for that. This has been a lifelong journey for you. What did your family think of all of this music for you? Did they have fun with it?
I think so. I mean, now that I'm a parent, I have 2 young children, and I think about my parents a lot. When I told them I wanted to write music I told them a lot of things growing up. I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I wanted to be once I saw Top Gun, I wanted to be a pilot. I saw a movie, and I remember seeing Karate Kid, and I wanted to be like a karate instructor. I was like all over the map. But when they saw that I was serious about music, I have a feeling some part of them must have been like, I might as well have told. I might as well have told them I wanted to be like, an actor, or some far-fetched dream that, they're going to support me for the rest of their life, and I'll be living in their basement. And I don't know if they felt that way. I haven't asked them. I should, but I would imagine as a parent, now that I'm a parent, I would feel like I would want to encourage my child, but at the same time, I'd be like, oh man, this is the odds of this really working out for you are so slim. But that being said, I never got the hint that they were not supportive. They were 100% supportive of me. When I said I wanted to learn drums, they bought me a drum set and got me drum lessons. When I said I wanted to
suffered.
I know. We had a rock band, and we practiced in their basement like every week, and they still have cracks in their ceiling from the noise. But they supported me through it all, and they loved it, and they sacrificed to send me to a good college where I got a good education. And
they really did an amazing job of encouraging me and supporting me and making me believe that, it was possible to make this happen. And I'm just so grateful for my family, my two sisters and my parents, for all their support and getting me to where I am now. And then when I met my wife, she's been instrumental, because I remember 6 months after moving to LA, I immediately wanted to move back to Wisconsin. I was like, there's no way.
Oh.
And so, where's the sad music? Where can we dim the lights and
Dun, dun, dun.
but I remember just, it was overwhelming. You moved to LA. It was just, it kind of started to take its toll, and I was like, oh, let's forget it. This is a ridiculous dream. But she was like, no, we're gonna stick it out. Let's see what happens. And so it's been, my family and the people in my life that have been incredibly supportive through the journey has been made all the difference in the world, for sure.
I'm sure they're extremely proud of you. You've done a lot in your career so far. I know that.
I don't know that they are. No, I'm just kidding.
Come on. All that, Jeff. We have.
Yeah, I don't get invited to any of the family reunions, and
Oh.
no, I'm just kidding. I think they are. My parents actually got to go to a recording session up at Warner Brothers for Wildstar, and they were like glowing. You could just tell they were really just happy and proud, and to have gone through supporting me all those years, and then now just to sit on these couches in the Warner Brothers studio,
Yep.
and just to hear this 70-piece orchestra, play music that their son wrote. They were on cloud nine. So that was a very cool experience to be able to have them hear that.
Yeah, that's definitely a way to impress your parents. I mean,
Yeah.
how many people can say that? That's
on the way
impressive.
home, I asked them for a loan, and no, I didn't.
Right. Perfect timing right there.
Exactly.
Are you proud of me? Yes. No.
I have to say though, if you had made a Snickers commercial, it would have been the most epic Snickers commercial ever. That was
Orchestral music played in the background. I'd be like, wow. I really want to go get Snickers.
Peanuts.
That would have been amazing.
yeah.
Peanuts! Chocolate and caramel!
Oh, my.
Yeah, it would have been
I'm
great.
gonna go to the store right now. Seriously, I need a Snickers.
Well, if anyone out there knows the Snickers people, tell them I'm still interested.
Okay.
Be right on that.
Yeah.
Hey, you did your own album that was mainly piano, right? Named Pure
Yeah.
or something like that. Now, that's the only album you've done. Have you thought maybe trying to do an orchestral album now? Something with big band type thing.
I've thought about it. Yeah. I have all these side projects that I would love to get to. I don't have any free time, but there are a lot of things I would like to do. And that is one of the things that I would love to make happen, is just not to say there's anything wrong with writing for film or video games, because it is extremely rewarding, but there's something also rewarding about just taking your own sort of idea or your own just world and describing that and telling that story without the parameters of a video game or a film or a television show to put you in some sort of box. Now, something like Wildstar is a very large box to be in because the world is so diverse and there's so many different styles to play with. But that being said, I still have to fit within a Wildstar universe sonically. And all the video games I've done, it's the same thing. You have to fit within the parameters of this game that's been set before you. And so it would be really interesting to sit down and do an album, more kind of like a concept album, and just tell some stories musically without the constraints of being in some sort of parameter. And that's what that Pure album kind of was. It was me. I've always loved to just play piano and just make stuff up. And I would come home. I remember when I would be in like a high school, and I'd come home and I would just sit at the piano and I'd just improvise, and I would kind of just talk about my day. My mom always used to say she knew what kind of day I was having by what I'd come home and play, and I would just kind of like express myself through the piano and just play stuff and just kind of make it up. And it was therapy. It was decompression. It was all that soul stuff. And so it would be when I did Pure, it was meant to be this idea of I wanted to sit down at a grand piano, put up a bunch of microphones, and just press record and just see what happened. And I was living in Colorado at the time because I took a little break from living in California to go live in the mountains, which was weird, but it worked. And I remember, being in Colorado and thinking I'd like to do this, and so I did. And I never really thought much would come of it. It was just something to kind of check off on my list of things I'd like to do with my life, and I did it. And I was kind of surprised in the small town I was living in at the time. It was really well received, and I just making copies at home on my CD burner in my computer, and that thing was like overheating. I was just constantly making copies, and
Want a CD?
yeah, and it was cool. I was very honored and happy that people reacted, in a positive way. And you never really know. You're bearing your soul a little bit, and you're putting yourself out there. And
Yeah, no kidding.
and so to be able to do that with an orchestra album would be amazing. I think the thing I'd like to do is get to the point where I have enough money somehow, donate organs or something, right, where I could actually get a live orchestra to come play. Because a lot of this work, when you're dealing with synths, synthetic orchestras in the computer and strings and brass, it takes a lot of work to get them to sound legitimate and get them to sound as good as a live orchestra, and so I would love to do an album where I can go and actually hire a live orchestra and we can play and record, and we can just get a nice quality recording rather than me spending months painstakingly trying to get this MIDI information to sound like the real thing. So if I did it, I would like to do something like that. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I have no plans.
In
The
your
future's
future,
wide open.
Yes,
Wide open.
Right.
you'll be able to write your future. This is what I want to do, and they're just going to hand you a blank check. I can see it right now. Thank you, Jeff. Here's a blank check.
Yes! Yes! How many Snickers will that buy?
Oh, no kid.
Amazing.
Oh, well, it sounds like we know what to get you for Christmas. Snickers, big bag.
I haven't had a Snickers bar in a long time, actually, come to think of it. It's one of those things where I guess as a kid you probably like them, and as an adult I'm sure I do like them. I just haven't had one in a long, long time.
It's amazing how when you're a kid, you want to have candy. Now you're an adult, you can go get all the candy you want. You're like, I don't dare to even touch it.
I know. What's funny is this has nothing to do with anything, but
I know, it's random thoughts here. Sorry.
when I first got my driver's license, I vividly remember thinking I can go get French fries whenever I want, and that was like the coolest idea to me in the world. I'm like, I can go get French fries whenever I want, man. Just take the car and go get French fries. And I don't know why that meant so
That's
much.
freedom.
It's freedom. And
Yeah,
now I
sometimes-
can do that, and I don't because I can't ever get rid of the French fries.
Yeah. And now you have to bring the actual French fries home for your kids, though, right?
I
So you have
know.
to eat so much
Yeah.
and Snickers. I understand.
Yeah.
I have to ask though, because you went from Green Bay to LA, and supposedly you went there because of Back to the Future movie, right? Because you saw the soundtrack, you loved it, you had to go where the movies are made, and I love that. But it's funny because for me, like, I'm in Maine, and going to a big place like LA, there's got to be that transition, which is hard. And you kind of talked about how hard it really was. But was there something there? I know your wife really helped you out, or your girlfriend at the time. But was there a moment there that everything just kind of clicked? Like you knew, like you got the job you wanted, or you get that first step that kind of made you like, wow, my dream's not dead. I'm going to continue, and I can actually make it here.
That's a great question. When that moment happens, I will. No, I'm just kidding. Before I answer that, where in Maine are you? You don't have to give me a location, but I went to our honeymoon to Maine, and I'll say it was gorgeous. And I still have this idea in my head that someday I'm going to retire. I won't give away my whole plan because it's a great business model, and I don't want anyone stealing it. But I have a great plan to retire in Maine with this little business, and it was gorgeous. We were in Kennebunkport and Camden and that whole area. It was awesome. So anyway, kudos to you for living in a beautiful place.
I live right near there, so.
Oh, okay. It's awesome. So yeah, I think it was very difficult. I remember growing up in Green Bay. It's a very small town, and it's gotten bigger now. But it's a small town relatively, and I was very anxious for some sort of culture, just a big cultural melting pot that Green Bay really wasn't at the time. And I remember thinking, okay, if I'm going to make a go for this music thing, depending on where this gauge fell with either film music or songwriting or whatever I wanted to do, I knew it was probably going to be LA, Nashville, or New York or something, or Chicago or something in those big city areas where people are doing movies or marketing or television or songwriting or something along those lines. So what sealed the deal for me to go to LA was um, this idea of going through this UCLA film extension program, which is kind of just an offshoot of this UCLA program, and it is basically it was just like you get to go and you get to have these classes, and they give you that's taught by film composers, and it was just a nice sort of hands-on. You kind of learn by doing rather than go sitting in a classroom taking notes and learning about music history, which I didn't want to really do again for a master's degree. I wanted something that was like real life experience. So that's what sealed the deal with Los Angeles and moving out there. And then when I got out there, you're right, it was extremely difficult. And I loved the culture. I loved the different, variety of people. And, I had friends from all over the world that, had moved there as well. And you kind of meet these people and you're like, oh my gosh, you're from Italy. Oh man, you're from Spain. Oh, you're from Russia. It's just a huge melting pot, which was great.
Yeah.
But it's a very difficult and expensive place. And, I'm in Orange County now, which is also expensive, but just, the cost of living was killing us. And just this idea, you're trying to chase this dream, like you mentioned, it's sort of a difficult path to get started on, I guess, because you spin your wheels and you're trying to get something where you have some traction. And when you're not getting any of that traction on this dream that you have, it's very frustrating and very demoralizing. And you feel like, you know what, it's time to pack it in. And so I spent years. I went through the program at the UCLA Extension, and I remember I was actually working for Media Ventures, which is Hans Zimmer's company. I wish I could say I was writing music. I was just answering phones and going, hold on, I'll transfer you. I was pretty much doing that, which I'm not very good at, but I wanted to be in that environment, and it was eye-opening to be. I mean, Hans is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, film composer in the world, and so it was eye-opening to be in that environment and to watch what happens and how he works. And it was also sort of like, I will never be able to do this. It's kind of when you see someone at that level and you're like way down here, you're like, up, time to sell cars. So
Don't do that.
so it did become very tough and demoralizing. And then actually it led to through a few years of trying to get something going, nothing really was happening. Again, video games were not even on my radar. It wasn't until video games came on my radar when I met Jason Hayes, who's the composer of World of Warcraft, and he was I think he was the lead composer at Blizzard at the time. And he and I became friends, and when he invited me and asked me to come and work doing some arranging on arranging the choir for the Warcraft 3 cinematics, I remember going to Blizzard, seeing the cinematics and hearing the music he was working on, and I was like, okay, Blizzard cinematics are out of this world to begin with, but they looked great. His music was epic, and I thought, this is not what I expected. I was still used to, kind of Sega Dreamcast playing NBA 2K or whatever, and I just had not made that jump into these kind of more role-playing epic games that have these sweeping scores. And so at that moment I thought, okay, video games are a viable option. But nothing still really clicked as far as getting that traction that I was looking for. And it wasn't until I think having moved to Colorado and then moved back, and then I started work on a game called Pirates of the Burning Sea. And I had sent a demo, again, through some other people I knew. There's a group of us, and we kind of collaborated on a demo, and we all had different pieces on this demo. And the piece that I had put on the demo was the one that they liked, and they said this is what we want, more stuff like this. And at that point I was like, wow, that was kind of shocking, because there was some really good stuff that was sent to them, and I wasn't expecting that. And so when I started working on that game with Adam Gutman, who was the co-lead composer with me on that game, we tag teamed it, and that was the moment, I think, when it'd be like, okay, this is pretty cool, because then I had some confidence. I had some people who were looking for something actually say, we want what you have to offer, which was a big moment, because up until that point it was like, no thanks. A lot of people were just, it was rejection after rejection, or kind of nothing really ever caught on fire until this happened. And then that game was a huge learning experience. I was never lead composer on a video game up until that point. And then that led to working at Somatone Interactive, which we did a lot of casual games, and there's it was an audio post-production house for a lot of casual games and even some AAA and core titles. But and that was a great experience, being a staff composer with them. And then kind of worked my way to Carbine after Somatone. But I would say that Pirates of the Burning Sea was a really good kind of grappling hook for me to this industry, because it attached itself, and I was like, okay, and it started pulling me in, and I was sold. I thought, this is really cool. Now I still have dreams to do television or film or things like that, but I turned a corner with that project. That gave me some confidence. It gave me just some experience in doing this that allowed me to kind of be like, oh, okay, let's see if I can parlay this into something else after this. And that was a long answer to your question. I apologize, but that's kind of the progression of how that happened. But I mean, you're talking about, we moved in 2001 to LA, and that game was 2006. So that's 5 years of kind of just going, just not knowing and just wondering. And I was working at Starbucks, and I was a substitute teacher, and I was teaching piano lessons, and you just do whatever you can. Yeah, you just got to survive. You pay the bills, and I had some horrible equipment as a home studio, and I was trying to write songs for people. If there was an artist, it was like a singer-songwriter that wanted to come record, we'd do that and record their guitar and record their vocals, and I put some piano to it. And so I was doing some pop production. I was writing some stuff for infomercials, and it's tough, and you just start thinking, at what point is this going to flip from being a hobby that I do from 10 o'clock at night to 2 in the morning, and then I have to wake up and do my day job? What point is this going to flip over, and am I going to be able to really call myself a composer? And it takes a long time. Well, it did for me. It might not for all you young dreamers out there.
Tomorrow you're going to be doing this. No, I think there's a lot of work in it. Definitely. You said in 2006 you did that Burning Seas.
Yeah,
right?
I started in 2006 because I remember I just moved back from Colorado. So 2006, I believe. Maybe it's 2005. So I want to say somewhere in there. 2006-ish.
So now, we're at 2013, heading to 2014. What do you think of the evolution of the music in the game so far? Is it getting bigger? Are we pushing more towards, big music in these games, you think? Or have we been kind of level? I mean, what do you
I will say this. I'll start this answer by saying I'm actually not as much of a gamer as I should be. I know.
We're done with this conversation.
Everyone
See you guys later.
Everyone just left. That's not to say I don't like them. I just don't find myself with any time to be able to play them. I still have games that are in shrink wrap from like 3 Christmases ago.
Oh, wow.
That people gave me that I still haven't even been able to put in the Xbox. And so it's just I just don't find myself with any time to play as much as I'd like. That being said, I try to keep up on things that are happening in the industry. And actually, to that point, it's kind of been a blessing and a curse on this particular project, the fact that I'm a little bit ignorant of MMOs in general. I've never played World of Warcraft. I know this is already going bad. I'll stop. This is my last. This is my last appearance on the show.
That's okay. We'll just get you up to date.
Yeah. You can tell me what I'm missing, but
We have a spot grievance for you.
is it writing jingles for Grievance?
Yes.
Hey,
Sure, I'll put
hey,
it-
if you want to do jingles with Snickers, all cool. I will send you Snickers, man.
No, so it's been a blessing and a curse in a way because there are things that are probably inherently, kind of already known to be tried and true in MMO music and scores and the way the gameplay works that I'm probably not sure of or just have not experienced. So in that regard, I wish I would be playing more of these MMOs. And on the other hand, I'm not coming into this project with any preconceived notions of what should be done. I had no idea. I just kind of went in and been like, it'd be cool as if we did this. And so it was a little bit of a fresh approach, I think. And it was interesting learning a little bit more as the years have gone by on Wildstar, learning what kind of is standard and what is not standard. And sometimes I'll have to ask, like, hey, would you be annoyed if this music played during this time as an MMO player? And they're like, well, yeah, it could get annoying. Okay, and then let's figure something else out. Because I just don't have the experience to answer those kind of questions myself. So, but I definitely don't want to assume that my way is going to be the best way. So I do talk to a lot of the players here that are big MMO guys, and I make sure that we're doing something that falls in line with, something they'd be excited about. So back to your question about the evolution, since 2006, well, Pirates of the Burning Sea was a very interesting project because it had a very unique sound. Like they wanted to sound piratey, but this sort of like 18th century or 17th century kind of pirate sound, and then also the same period sounding British music and Spanish music and French music, and so we kind of had to, we had to do some research and figure out, well, who were the big composers of that time, and what was their music sounding like, and we would kind of try to track with that and make sure our music seemed evocative of the same sort of style that they were doing back then.
Yeah.
Except for the pirate music, because Hans Zimmer ruined it for everybody by coming out with Pirates of the Caribbean. So, you can't really stray too far from that nowadays. But what I've been most impressed with, I think, is these past years of video game music, is the kind of the more out of the box approach to how music works. And like one game that really grabbed me was Red Dead Redemption, in the way that they used music. It wasn't like overly thematic. It was very ambient in the way that they've created a bunch of music all at the same tempo, all in the same key, and it can get called at any time, and they can all layer on top of each other based on what you're doing. So it's very interactive. If you get on your horse, you hear different layers come in, and if you get in combat, different layers come in, and it's all these different building blocks like Legos are meant to stack together at different times. And I thought it was a brilliant system, and it sounds very evocative of that art style and that Western thing that they were doing, and I thought that was really cool. I really appreciated that. I appreciated kind of the out-of-the-box approach to BioShock with that really, what Gary Scheinman did with that really kind of atonal 20th century string quartet music, and it just seemed creepy and cool, and just hadn't really been done in a video game that I knew of up until that point. But I'm really impressed with the epic kind of nature of more and more video game music. I think we lose a little bit of the thematic, and it's not just in video games. I think in film and television, I think there's sort of a loss of thematic writing. Everyone, I think, probably can think back to the original WoW and some of these games that have strong melodic kind of hooks in them, and you can remember the melody. I mean, even like something as simple as Mario Brothers, like it's super catchy and you never forget the melody. And I think there is a tendency now to really play it ambient and really be more and more ambient, which is great. I think it can work really well. Um, but I've always been a fan of melody, and I love what a good theme can do, and how that can stick with you, and it can make you feel a certain way. And so with Wildstar, I haven't really been too. There is a lot of ambient music, which no one has really heard, because we're not just going to release ambient music. It's not that exciting to release as a feature. And so we've released all the some, not all, but some of this thematic material. But there is a lot of ambient music for sure. But I want to make sure that when you go into a zone, you feel like I've set a tone thematically, and you get this sense of like of what this zone is, and kind of what you'll be doing here as soon as you enter the areas. And so I've just seen, I guess, a little bit more of a tendency towards ambient music in games and less thematic music. And film, it's same with film and same with television. And I guess I like to think we can get back to maybe some more thematic writing without being annoying or having it be too repetitive. That's kind of a blanket statement. Yeah, it's a blanket statement because I know there are a lot of people doing a lot of great things. And so, I don't want to say with a huge paintbrush that no one's writing thematically, because they are. But like Journey, I thought that game, the PlayStation game, I thought was brilliant. The way the music was melodic and evocative, and yet it had some ambient times, and but it made you feel like you were connected with that game. And I know music was a big part of the design of the game, but it was very, I don't know. I mean, it was very what's the word? Good. No, that's not the word.
It was good.
It was good. It was very well done. But I mean, it made you feel a part of that story, and it was very narrative-ish, very narratively done. I don't know if that's a word. So anyway,
exactly.
So I think there's some games that have a really unique approach and are doing some really cool things. But I've also, I've picked up a couple of games and I've popped them in, and I've kind of been a little disappointed. It feels like music was a little bit of an afterthought, or not quite as important. And I know we always joke around here in the office with MMOs, like, why do I bother? Because people are just going to turn it off, and everyone's talking and they're battling, and they're going to put on Slipknot anyways because they're going to do their music. But my hope,
my playlist.
Yeah, and that's pretty common in MMOs, and I know you're going to spend a ton of time in the same area, so it could get repetitive. But my goal is really to help people feel a part of this world through the music, and hopefully, if they leave it on and give it a chance, that they'll feel more immersed in that world because of the music, rather than immediately flipping the kill switch on the music and the preferences, because they feel like it's going to be, they have a preconceived notion that it's going to be cheesy or repetitive or boring or this or that. And so I'm really trying hard to make it thematic, but then I want to get out of the way and not have it be annoying while you're going to be in there for hours, or whatever it's going to be. So we'll see when you guys all jump in and play it. We'll see how well I did at that. I may get a bunch of hate mail the day after we launch the game and say, why did you do that?
Trust me, no letters will go. I mean, no one's going to send those kind of emails. Like, I've been sitting here like the last couple of days listening to some of the music that you put out, on the internet so far for the game. Things like Defend the Gates and Justice Doesn't Always Wear a Badge. And it's just, the first thing I thought of was like a movie like Gladiator or Lord of the Rings. It was like that kind of scale where it's like that scene, you get chills, or you just you just feel the tension in the air. And
it's amazing.
It blows me away knowing that there's that kind of detail, because we all know how MMOs are so immense. There's so much to pay attention to. And they have put an effort to put, that kind of detail in the music. And we're going to appreciate it. We're going to love it. And I'm so curious, though, how do you ever arrange, like, you have things in mind? Like, are those songs, is there a scene in mind? Like, how do you actually develop a song for the game? I'm guessing you haven't really seen much of the gameplay when you wrote the songs. I mean, how does that whole work?
Yeah, I mean, it's been different stages. I appreciate that too. Like, I definitely appreciate that feedback. I remember when I first put out, I don't know if it was a Wildstar Wednesday, they had a little feature. I think it might have been that video even that you played at the beginning where it was me talking about the first sessions we ever did. And I remember being so nervous thinking that, again, that game people are going to judge this and be like, this is not MMO music that I want to listen to. And you put yourself out there and you sort of like, I was just terrified that there was going to be this huge judgment upon me for doing something or having this kind of music in. So the scale and the epicness of it, I really appreciate that feedback, that you get that sort of sense from it and you get that feeling from it. We have been super, super blessed to be able to take these notes on this page and go up and record at one of the best recording studios in the world at Warner Brothers. And we did a session at Sony, which is, in my opinion, probably the best in the world. So you record in these incredible studios, these facilities, and we're getting the same people who are playing on all the big Hollywood scores. And it's interesting, as I've done these sessions, I've kind of developed these relationships with these musicians, and these are people that I have a tremendous amount of respect for, just their musicality and their virtuosity on their instrument. And we had, at this last recording session, which was earlier this year in February, we were recording at the same time as Into Darkness was, and we had a little bit of problems getting some of our regular players back.
Yeah.
But we actually had quite a few players turn down Into Darkness to come play on the Wildstar score, and that to me was like,
Awesome.
Yeah.
that was unbelievable. I was gonna call Michael Giacchino and say, "Hey, buddy, I know your music didn't turn out that great. It's because Wildstar." Click. No, I didn't.
That's harsh.
I love Michael Giacchino. I love Michael, if you're listening, which I don't know if you are, but I love your music.
That's a good job, because wow, that movie rocked. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that sound. Anyway,
He's great. He's great.
Yeah.
So we're able to get a huge cinematic sound because we're getting the same people in the same facilities and the same post-production treatment that they do on the movies. And so it's been an absolute thrill to be able to have that experience. So that's been awesome. And I intentionally wanted to do something that felt cinematic. And the audio director and myself, we made a decision early on, from the sound effects to the voiceover to the music, to make it feel immersive and cinematic, and to not pull any punches when it comes to the quality of what we're going to do. And Carbine has been incredibly supportive throughout the process, which has been great, because I know a lot of game companies that are like, can you just take the cheapest way possible to make this music? And then you're kind of stuck, and you have a huge hurdle because you don't want it to sound cheap, but you don't have the resources to really get you past, a certain threshold. So all that to say, it's been really, really cool to be able to have those experiences. When I'm looking at the game in these different zones, so with Defend the Gates, let's say, that takes place in an area of the game where you are under siege, and you, as an exile player, are walking out, and you see, it's smoke, and there's, things zooming over your head, and it feels like a battlefield. Well, it is a battlefield, but it feels like kind of intense. And I really wanted something that felt heroic. I always picture the exiles as some people that have a little bit more of an emotional reasoning to them. The exiles, I feel like they have families, and there's the people they care about, and they're leaving loved ones behind, and they're standing up for what they believe in. And the Dominion. The Dominion, I always feel like it's pretty much just like they are brute force, and they have feelings, but they don't really tap into them.
Don't need feelings.
Exactly. And
they got a job to do.
Yep, and that's it. They're no nonsense, and so they're coming, and they will just roll you over, like it or not. And so I knew I wanted to do something with that cue that was very had some emotion to it, and I think when those French horns come in with that theme in that cue, it feels like a rising up and like a strengthening, like you brace yourself and but there's still that drive and that action, and there's this bit crush drums that are going on. Bit crush is like a distortion effect, by the way, and it just kind of gives you this gritty battle feel, but there's this heroic and this sort of like sense of longing to it. So when I wrote that cue, I was actually able just to make a character in the game, go out in that little battlefield, and everything gets foggy and smoky, and you see all these kind of fire and lights and everything, and people are, shooting at you, and I just stood there, I put God mode on first. Huh? I have learned a few things since Pirates of the Burning
Do
Sea.
you share that?
Yes. Up, down, left, right.
So I stood there, and made sure I didn't get killed, and just kind of tried to soak in and absorb that atmosphere. And that was something where the art and everything was very, very much in place. So I really got a clear picture of what I was working on and what was kind of required of me in that area. Then I've been to areas in the game where you're right. You walk in and it's like nothing. There's no wind because the sound effects team hasn't been there. There's some trees and some grass and some rocks, and it just has not been fully touched yet. And those are always a little bit more sketchy because things change in development. And so I'm a little bit more hesitant unless I have a firm, a firm commitment from a designer that's, hey, this is what's going to happen in this area. It's going to be mysterious. There's going to be these things crawling all over. Okay. Then I can go in and start working on some mysterious music that fits that area and what I imagine it might be. But I usually try to wait and have my production schedule kind of come after and kind of bat cleanup after design has gone through, because there's just too many surprises and unknown variables where I think we're going to do one thing and they're like, you know what, we're going to make it a happy-go-lucky zone. We're going to not mysterious, but it's going to be more like cheerful, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I will change the music. So I want to try to avoid that as much as possible. And I want to give the designers the freedom that they need to go in there and try some stuff and be like, it didn't work as mysterious. So let's make it more of a combat area. And I don't want to have to hold them to that by saying, well, we already spent money on the orchestra. We recorded that piece of music, so it's going in there. So I'd rather them figure out what they have to figure out, get it locked in, and then I'll come in, and I'll come in after that and do what I can. But there have been interestingly enough, there have been times when I've kind of had to go off of just a lore document and just then reading about what's going to happen or what this zone is supposed to be like, and then I go talk to some of the designers and get their take on what's going to happen. They kind of walk me through it, and then just kind of go off that. And that's a little tougher, but
yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, you don't quite get that full sense of being in that game and getting that process down. So
not getting shot at, you don't know what to expect.
No, man. How can somebody write music if you're not getting shot at?
Shot at, exactly.
Doesn't make any sense.
So, okay, you have all these different parts you work on in this game. And you were talking earlier about layers of the game. Layers of the music, I guess is a better way to put it. How do you take all these layers in these big scenes, and how do you put them together? What makes what makes it Wildstar? What?
Well, the first cue I ever did for the game was the Justice Doesn't Always Wear a Badge, and that was something that I thought would help define the Wildstar sound, which was this mix of acoustic guitar and electronica elements, kind of spacey sci-fi synths and things, and then an orchestra. And so I thought those three elements were an interesting blend. And it's not revolutionary, but I think it works really well with this particular game. So what happens is then, depending on what part of the game you're in, there's sometimes where the guitar layer doesn't really quite fit. It's not really that frontier westerny vibe as much. And there's other times when it's purely synth. Like I know, like the Elden theme is all synthesizers. There's no orchestra. I wanted it to feel artificial but emotional. I
Okay.
mean, it's engaging emotionally, but it's all artificially done. It's cold. It's calculating. It's everything is right on a click. There's no wiggle room. You don't have this flowing, kind of free orchestral version of it. It's very structured, and I feel like that worked well with the Eldon to have it be completely inorganic. And then there's other places like with the Orin where it's very organic. And there's no synthetic synthesizers or anything in the Orin theme. That's all very organic, and we have these kind of wood percussion things, because they love trees and all that stuff, and they're these creatures of nature. And so I wanted it to feel very hollow with that flute line, and very melodic, and very very organic. And so it's fun to have these different layers to work with, and I guess my decision process is based on what the mood and the vibe of that area is. And even within the orchestra, I mean, that's a balancing act just to try and figure out,
Yeah.
is this going to be a brass-driven cue, a string-driven cue, or how's that going to work? And for me, actually, that's one of my favorite parts of this whole process. Like right now, I'm in writing mode. I'm writing my face off. But later this year, we're going to have some recording sessions, and those are always the biggest fun for me, because you get that reward, that payoff of finally getting to hear everything be realized in 3D. And so but that process leading up to it of sort of preparing and orchestrating and taking a cue and going, okay, let's put this in the violas and this in the French horns, and starting to disseminate those different parts and balancing out the orchestra so that you have a good performance, and it doesn't seem like you can hear all the parts and it's not, the brass isn't too loud. And
Yeah.
that for me is a fascinating part, and I love it. It was a learning process. The first one I did, I had it balanced. I had it way off. Not way off, but it was off enough where we had to do something called striping, where we had the orchestra in the room, and we had to, okay, a little bit of a time waster. We had to say, okay, brass don't play this one, just recorded strings. And then, okay, strings don't play, and just record brass. And that's called striping. You just take one section at a time,
Okay.
and they glue it back together later, because that way the brass can play as loud as they want without having to feel like they don't have to overpower the strings, and the strings can be as delicate as they want without feeling like they have to rise above the brass. It was my own fault. I picked the wrong number of components of people in each section. I didn't do a very good job of balancing it, and I learned quickly. And I feel like now we have a really good balance in our orchestra, the numbers we have and the players we have. But all that plays an important part in what you feel in a zone when you walk into an area, or when you get into combat. If the mix is weird, or if it feels just unbalanced and you're not getting that performance from the musicians, then I think you lose a little bit in that translation, and you don't get that immersive cinematic quality.
I can just see you yelling at the orchestra, "Darn it, brass! Trumpets, shut up!"
There is a lot of that. It's like you've been there.
Yeah, well, I always remember that my band director was always screaming at him, "Trumpets!"
Right. You just have to be careful. So that's what when you want that from the trumpets, you just make sure you get it from them. Like, make sure you give them a nice, clear, open space to let the trumpets be the trumpets, without having to put something delicate underneath them where you're like, trumpets, you got to scale back because we need to hear this oboe.
Yeah.
No, you get the trumpets, when you need them to be, do what they do, and you just let them loose. So, but we have talented people. I mean, it's funny. Actually, one of our trumpet players is the guy from The Incredibles. His name's Wayne Bergeron. He plays a ton of the film scores, but you can hear him doing all that jazz stuff in The Incredibles, and he's fantastic. But when you need them, this is the virtuosity of these caliber of players. When you need these guys to just calm down and to really be sensitive to the situation and the emotion you're going for, they can dial it right in, because they've never seen this music before. So you show up on that day, and they sit down and they look at the music. The first time we play through, everyone's sight reading. It's a little rough, but still good. And the second time, it's better. By the third time, they've nailed it. And so it's pretty amazing how quickly they can adjust and be sensitive to what you're trying to get out of them. And then we move on to the next cue, and it's pretty awesome.
That's amazing. I mean, it seems like, Carbine and, the studio and the people you're working with are just top notch and can handle that stuff. What I can't comprehend is how in your head you're writing this stuff. And I know you've probably done the research, you know the characters, and you've seen the zone. And so you break those characters down to not only feelings and backgrounds, but to also what certain individual instruments that you want to convey those feelings and that character. So how do you, I just can't imagine, how do you write that? And how do you keep it all together in your head? And then somehow it works out in 3 takes with a group of people. Like to me,
Yeah. Well,
it's like magic.
it is a lot of magic. It's a lot of pixie dust. It's a lot of pressure because I know in those situations with the orchestra, I know time is money, and I know that we have to move quickly, and so there has to be a certain amount of preparation, and I have to have done my job correctly in order to, get the right performance from these people. But I'll show you. I showed you this before we started, but this is how it all starts. Hey everybody, right? So here's a bunch of. This is where it all starts, right? These are just ideas and sketches from everything in Wildstar. It's all in this book, and everything from zone music to thematic music for different races and different situations. They all start here with a pen and paper, and I kind of just sketch out some ideas with the piano. And the original idea is when it's very much like storytelling. Like, so you're saying, how can I dial in some of this emotion and tell the story? It's music is a language. This is going to sound philosophical. I feel like I should have a pipe. Music is a language. We all speak in our souls. So music is a language, and I think it takes time and it takes a certain amount of just doing it to learn how to use it to your advantage. I learned German a little bit, and when I was in high school, and just like learning that language, it took some time. And then if I didn't use it, I forgot it. And some things you kind of stuck with you. But when I've made it my job to know the ins and outs of music theory and the language and the vocabulary of music. And so when something comes up and they say we need something that's sad but mysterious, then you have to start kind of going through this Rolodex of kind of tools in your head and also really tap into an emotion of like, well, what sounds sad and mysterious. And sometimes it's playing a couple chords and going, well, it's not quite right. And it's a little bit of experimenting. And sometimes I'll be walking the dog and I'm like, oh, it'd be a good idea. And you kind of hum it into the recorder, and then you bring it back. And the Dominion theme was actually one where I sang it into my phone at some point. I don't remember where it was, but I sang it into my phone. The rhythm, and so I sang that rhythm into my phone, and I came back the next day and I started working on that rhythm, and I really thought that was a cool kind of rhythm to build from. And it seemed imposing, and it seemed like it was relentless. And I guess it was, maybe I was feeling imposing and relentless that day when I was walking the dog. I don't know, but you kind of tap into these emotions of being of being happy or heroic or sad. And if it doesn't move me, if I don't, I'm kind of like my own sounding board. If I'm playing something and if I don't kind of feel that spark or feel that like, oh, you know what, that makes me feel a certain way, or that really says this, then it's probably not going to make anyone else feel that way. And so I'm kind of the first line of defense, and then I start kind of playing it for other people and seeing if they get the same emotion from it. But it's using these tools and this language of music to sort of tell the story of what I'm feeling. And just like that Pure album where you just sit down and you go, what do I feel like playing? And you just start playing and just let it roll off of your soul, I guess. It's in the same way where if someone gives me a scenario, then just try to put yourself in that and try to evoke that a little bit through the chords and the melody and I knew like with the Orin theme, like I really wanted something that was hopeful but kind of sad, but yet had the potential to be really beautiful but still vulnerable. And those are delicate things to balance. And I sometimes I listen to it and I think nailed it, and sometimes I listen to it and I go, nah, I didn't quite. It just depends on my own mood, I guess. But uh, it's a process, and I still think I'm learning, but it's a process to juggle these things and to get the balance of some of those emotions, especially in a video game when you know that the player can be doing so many different things. So you can go from being in a cave where someone just died. I'm not giving anything away because I'm making this up, but and it's very sad and lonely, and you have isolation, and then you feel like you're gonna cry, and then as soon as you walk out the cave, it's like shoo, 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 and there's going to be these moments of the player just flipping emotionally from one extreme to the other, and so you have to make sure that they feel like they've been cared for in that experience along the way, both artistically with the visuals and with the audio and the sound effects and the music. So want to make sure that that feeling and that language is used properly to keep that player moving through the game and feel like they haven't been abandoned, like we gave up caring about them somewhere along the middle of the game. That we still
Yep.
want to make sure that they feel these feelings that they're supposed to be feeling. And one of the first things I ever had to do was at Summotone, when I was at Summotone, which was still a life lesson to me. I had to write a video game. It was just a small mahjong online video game, but it was a mahjong game that took place at a casino in Miami, and so in the game at least, and so they wanted this Latin music blended with an Asian music because it was mahjong at this Cuban Miami casino, and I was like,
how do you do that?
What is this? Who is making this game? And so that was when my eyes were opened to video games being like, if this could be, you can have these exciting, exotic blends, and you can do things that the world will never hear, and maybe should never hear, because that was a horrible cue. But there's just a lot of opportunity, and then as you do these crazy, outrageous things, you start building these little toolkit and these vocabularies, and I feel more secure in my musical vocabulary now than I ever have. But I also know that there's times when I'll start to work on a cue and I'm like, how can I express combat in a new way? Because I've done it, there's so much combat in the game. Hey, we need a combat cue for this area. I'm like, oh my gosh, how much more, how much more of that can we do? But it's a challenge. You have to figure out how to express that in a different way that still feels authentic and combative. So,
that's kind of a nice little segue. Do you know how much of Wildstar are you close to being done? Do you feel, or do you have a long ways to go with the music?
Time-wise, I don't have a long ways to go, but what I'd like to accomplish is still a lot. I've been here, kind of working long hours. Everyone's really, putting in a ton of effort and a ton of new content, and it's amazing. We have a talented group of people here at Carbine, and they're fighters, man. They are here and they're making some amazing things. But my guess, if I had to guess, by the time it's all said and done, and again, I don't know what's normal in MMOs as far as like how many hours of music, but I'm the only one writing music for this game. It's not like we have a team of composers; it's just me.
Oh, okay.
But we'll probably have about 10 hours, somewhere in that ballpark of 10 hours of music in the game. So it seems like a lot. That's a lot of CDs.
Yeah,
That
I'm
does
willing
seem
to
like
bet
a
that's a lot.
Now, not all of it is going to be stuff that you want to listen to over and over again, because again, there's a lot of ambient stuff, and there is a lot of there's cinematic music, and there's this and that. But yeah, I made a decision early on to kind of give different zones their own theme and feel, and it's kind of come back to haunt me now because there's a lot of areas in the game, and so they all need music, and it's a fun challenge though, that's for sure.
Would you say there's one zone? Well, if you can say it, is there one zone in there that's it's been just a real bear to figure out what to write for?
That is a good question. There is one zone. I can't say what it is, but there is one zone that is very frustrating. I keep putting it off, and I visit it, and then I'm like, nope, I have nothing. It's like just Soul Guardian's point about how do you tell this? How do you tap into this emotional stuff? Well, sometimes it's really difficult. So I have this area where I've been trying for months, and I go in there, and I'm running around the game, and I look at it. And whatever I come up with, it feels like it's just like, this is not quite dialed in. It just feels a little bit off. It's not quite right. And it's frustrating. And then rather than try to muscle it into submission, I just leave it.
Yeah.
I have plenty of other things to work on, and I come back, and I still haven't quite found the right inspiration for it yet. And I haven't quite found the right blend of emotions to put in it. So we'll keep trying. And if you get to that part of the game and there's no music, just remember this conversation.
You know why? Wow, this area just is real quiet.
That's the way I wanted it to be, man. I just wanted to do something really different, just not put any music there. It's not that I couldn't think of anything.
It's basking in the silence. I understand. It's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
That
But
would be actually kind of creepy. Sorry, that would be kind of creepy though if you walk in one area where there is absolutely no sound, like you're playing in a vacuum.
Yeah,
That would be weird.
it is weird. Like in these areas of the game where I go to before we've been there as an audio team, it's really interesting because it's dead quiet and there's no wind, there's no birds, there's no nothing. It's pretty surreal.
It kind of reminds me of the old games like Doom, which would be like really quiet except for like breathing in the corner or like clinking places. You're like, what's around the corner?
Yeah.
Totally freaks you out. But that's the question though, because sound effects too, not only the music, but sound effects play an important part. And this game's a futuristic, space traveling, who knows what kind of game. I mean, it seems like it's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
How hard is it to make the sound effects for this game? Because it must be technology that obviously we don't have.
Yeah, I started off as a sound designer here at Carbine, and so I was doing sound effects for a little bit before I became the composer. And now we have a very, very talented team of sound designers, and it is really interesting. We have, fortunately, one of our sound designers, his mentor was Ben Burt, who did all the sound effects for Star Wars, and he has this huge library of sci-fi sounds and just sort of kind of components that he can put together. And so he does amazing sci-fi stuff. And we have a few other sound designers that just really out of the box stuff, and they're taking sounds from different creature noises and things, and they're putting together to kind of give you this alien creature roar that you've never heard before. And it takes a certain amount of like of creativity and a certain amount of just kind of out of the box thinking to go to an alien world and with these spaceships and things you've never seen before that have no real touchstone on Earth, and to figure out what does that sound like. And that's a challenge for sure. But we have a lot of talented people that are amazing.
That's awesome.
So have you taken the orchestra yet, and you're playing the pieces? Have you had them? I watch on you watch on the Star Wars special features and like that. They show the orchestra playing, and the composer will be having the movie play above them and everything like that.
Yeah.
Do you do that at all?
We usually just have the logo up there, which is kind of cool. It kind of sets the mood. This is Wildstar. But whenever we do a cinematic, so if there's a cinematic from the game that we're doing the score for, we have it running, and that's kind of cool. It feels like that. I remember seeing those kind of behind the scenes thing, and there's John Williams, and there's Jurassic Park on the screen, and he's conducting, and it feels really cool. And so it is really interesting to have this big Wildstar cinematic running on the screen where you're conducting the orchestra, and it's satisfying. I like that.
It'd be pretty cool to watch. I can just imagine. I would like to be in the audience, and I would love to see that. I would love to be, have just an audience there watching you, conduct this orchestra along with the cinematic going along up top. I kind of gives me chills.
Yeah, it's a trip, and just the overall sound of the orchestra in that room. I think it's pretty amazing to hear if you've never heard it before. It's really, really interesting. So, well, hopefully someday maybe you'll get the chance. I don't know how that would ever happen, but maybe we'll see.
When you send me tickets to come to LA, because I like a vacation. Thank you.
That's it. That's when it will happen.
Sweet. I'm gonna go pack my bags back.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Don't pack them right now. Just wait,
No?
maybe like 3 or 4 years before you.
Whoa, that's kind of a long time.
Well, I'm just saying, there's not really any firm commitment on this end. As much as I'd love to have you there.
Boy. Never
Don't make any
mind.
promises.
This guy doesn't play video games and he hates me. No, it's not true. I do play video games and I love everyone. So
Okay.
So I
Wow.
gotta ask though, like, what Wildstar, man? It's there. It's you said you're 10 hours away. What's next? I mean, do you have any plans? Are you totally focused? Where do you see yourself going from here? Like, are you committed to video games? Or you still want to do movies? Is it just the world's still open to you?
it's pretty open. I mean, again, I'm very nervous for me personally on a very personal level. If I could just open up to you guys for just a moment. I'm nervous about when the actual game launches. I'm nervous for how that would be received and the reception of the music. And so I'm hopeful. I mean, I'm proud of it and I like it. But there's always that insecurity that kind of looms over everything that I do. But I'm kind of anxious. I'm really, really anxious to see how it's received, what happens, like with the game in general and the music in particular. And I don't have any plans. I don't have any plans to go anywhere. I don't have any plans to move on to anything else. So I'm kind of anxious to see how this, plays out. And this is a great. I mean, the Carbine gig is a great gig. I mean, we're recording with live players. We have a talented group of artists and designers and everything. And so it's really a dream job. And so I'm just kind of trying not to get fired so I can just keep staying here and working. And we'll see what happens. I mean, if through this, if the game gets released or when the game gets released, and if the music is successful, and if someone goes, I'd love to hear that guy do our TV show. I mean, yeah, I'd love to try a TV show. I'd love to try a feature film. I'd love to try some different things, but I'm not pining for it like I was when I was in high school and college. Like there was that holy grail of like film, and I feel like I'm not as desperate for it. I'm still hungry to accomplish things, and I have dreams I'd like to do, but I'm pretty satisfied with what I'm doing now and how this is all panning out. And so I'm guessing I'm just kind of wait and see to answer your question. I'm going to wait and see a little bit and see how this goes, and to see what opportunities this might open, or just kind of see what happens. But it's something I'm really proud of. So I am very anxious for everyone to hop in the game and play it and hear the culmination of what we've done from an audio team and what everyone else, the design and the art and all that, how that's all kind of come together. I'm anxious for everyone to experience that.
And we are anxious too, believe me. I
Yes.
really can't wait to see finished product, because what you've got so far, wow. Just listening to it, we've had such a good time. And
Thank
before we
you.
started the cast, we were telling you, we've been listening to this the past couple of days. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, really looking forward to it along with you. We'll be there waving our Wildstar banners and listening very
so much-
hard and not
so
turning
much,
off the music for Slipknot.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I have so much music that I would love to share. The thing is, it's just like if I were to release everything, there would be no surprises in the game. And so that's kind of the hard part too. Is like I really, Twitter is great, and I get to interact with a lot of people. And there's so many times I would love to just, share some of these things I've been working on. And but I think the payoff is going to be when you hop in the game and you hear some of this stuff for the first time. I think it'll be really exciting. So I'm trying to avoid the short-term payoff for the long-term benefit of everyone kind of having that experience and really, being able to sink their teeth into it all together at the same time.
Kind of like Christmas. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thank you, Santa. All right. Well, I did want to open up to our audience. If we had some questions, please go ahead and post them in the chat. And Jeff, to start out with, we had some fun ones from Setsuko. He is asking, what do you think of the Skyrim theme?
It's good. Actually, to be honest, I've never heard it, and that's gonna alienate a lot of people.
He's
Oh my.
busy.
For that, I apologize. It's Jeremy Soule, right?
Best I can tell you is you have homework, I guess.
I know. I'll go
for next
listen
go
to it.
around.
I think it's brilliant. I really, really like it a lot.
Cool. Okay.
I don't know. I apologize.
No.
I need to listen to it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know it. I couldn't hum it to you, but I know that the music was really, really well received, and it was very highly acclaimed. So I'm sure it's brilliant, and I feel bad that I have not heard it.
Well, that's okay. It's pretty. Check it out.
Okay,
I'll
I
give
heard
you an
it.
endorsement. We had another one. How is your turntable DJ career coming along?
It's coming along great. It hasn't taken off the way I imagined, but then again, I haven't spent too much time in there lately. So it's been
Okay.
it's a lot of fun. I didn't even know turntable existed until about like 6 months ago, and then I popped in there, and it's been a blast. So it's really a fun thing to do. I just haven't had a whole lot of time to spend in there, but when I get a chance to DJ, I do enjoy it. I play a lot of Kesha, and the people play Kesha for me. Like they'll play Kesha, and they'll tweet me to say, "Hey, I'm playing Kesha for Jeff Kurtenacker," and I'm like, "You know what? I gotta go hear that because I love me some Kesha." And then I go in, and we have a party. It's pretty cool. So I'm enjoying the whole experience.
That's awesome. Have you DJ'd any of your own stuff yet?
I have. There was a time when it was a while ago when we were in there, and I threw up a couple Wildstar tunes, and it was fun. It was nothing revolutionary. There weren't like big major thematic reveals or anything, but I got permission to throw a couple tunes
Cool.
up from the DJ station. It was a lot of fun. So it was a cool way to kind of get that out and to let people hear some music in a different environment.
That is too cool. Okay, I've got to try to catch one of these shows sometime. Are you streaming
Yeah.
at all, maybe?
No, not that I know of. I hope not.
Okay. Worth a shot. All right. Flannan asked this, and we understand that you'll get the reference since it was recently on Twitter with you. Will you be adding kazoos into the mix of the Chua music scores, and/or will the Chua's main
Whoa.
theme be completely made of kazoos?
That would be amazing. The Chua's theme is actually done, so I could go back and add kazoos to it, but that was
no.
we did have some fun with the kazoos. I mean, they're just maniacal little creatures, and they are so fun. And so because of that, we were joking around on Twitter about the use of kazoos and these different crazy instruments. But no, if I could play a kazoo better than I do, it sounds like Dr. Seuss.
Yes, very good.
If I could play a kazoo better than I do, then I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't.
Good job, sir.
Thank you for the relief. A really good one, also from Setsuko. What's your favorite track from Wildstar so far?
That's a good question, and I've been asked before, and I've given different answers. But I think my favorite track is the character creation.
That is a good one. I loved listening to that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. No. I mean, but it's mostly about the process and just all the experience that was wrapped up into that particular piece of music. I wanted to do something a little different for character creation, and it still is in the vein of the game as far as the soundscape of what the game sounds like, but it feels like it was just a chance to do something vast and epic and beautiful but mysterious, and it was a chance to kind of stretch my legs for 7 minutes. Normally I have to keep it concise and in a box, and here I got to take 7 minutes and kind of develop these thematic ideas. And so it was just a really, really rewarding experience from the recording of it, the writing of it, all the way to the recording of it. So that's something that will always be close to my heart.
I have to admit, I was amazed. 7 minutes. I listened through the entire thing, and it gives you all these different feelings of it, and it just, wow. I mean, you're pouring your soul into your music, and I'm very impressed with that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think
Thank you for doing that.
There's some authenticity to it. It does add to the insecurity because you're bearing a little bit of your soul, but there is, I think it's authentic. I felt that way, or I feel that way even now, and then to translate that, into musical form, I think as songwriters or people who paint, artists or actors, I think that's the only way to do it, is to be authentic with it, and don't be a factory. Don't just churn stuff out that doesn't mean anything to you. Make sure it's meaningful and that you feel what you want to say, whether you're writing or acting or painting or drawing or whatever. So I think it's important.
Yeah, if you don't bare your soul, I feel like there won't be that connection. And I think so that you do that, I think it brings people in, sucks them in, and you have them. You captured them, and everyone appreciates that. I mean, it's what we're looking for.
Oh, great. I appreciate that. I'm glad it's working so far.
Definitely.
Definitely.
10 hours of that. 10 hours of you just being sucked in and me bearing my soul, and it's all set up.
That means we'll know everything about you if we listen to 10 hours of music, right?
That's right.
That's basically what you're going to have there.
All right. Well, we are getting close to time, so we will go on to our last few questions.
Sure. I'll keep them short so we can breeze through them.
No, you're awesome. You're awesome.
It's fine.
I love
Speed
the
round.
answers.
I'll give
Thank you.
one-word answers.
No, we don't want that.
At least 3 words.
Okay.
Answer in rhyme. There you go.
Have one from The Hate is Strong. Oh my.
The
Does
what?
each race have their own theme, and could you describe the Macari race theme?
Each race does have their own theme. It's a good question. They do. I don't think I'm giving anything away there. I think we've already talked about that publicly. And the Macari, I did. Yeah, they're all done. Okay, I was gonna say I haven't done it. It's weird. I forgot a lot of what I've done already. I'll hear something. I don't even remember writing it. But the Macari's done. And I would describe the Macari as they are. They're these highly intelligent, kind of robotic android things, and they are under a certain orders, to do this, to carry out this job, and they are pretty much loyal and allegiant. And so their theme it's kind of a little bit of a mixture of kind of this spy intelligence sort of keeping the peace thing. So very kind of like techie, and that feeling meets this, not sinister, but it's a little bit darker, a little bit more like they're not concerned with which way you feel about anything. They are doing their thing. And so they have their orders and they're marching on it, and it's sort of like relentless, and it's marching closer and closer. So it's not a march, but it does have that kind of impending synthetic. It's again a lot of synths and a lot of cool, robotic sort of sounds to it, and I'm really excited about it. So I can't wait for people to hear that one, because the Macari was something I really wanted to nail, and I talked a lot with Chad Moore, who's our lore guy, and I wanted to make sure I brought him in all the way through the process of all these themes, but the Macari in particular, because I knew it was near and dear to his heart as well. So it's something I think we really honed in on and were able to kind of get. It's hard to describe, but I think it's close.
Very cool. I can't wait to hear it. Sounds really fun.
I think it turned out great. It's fun.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, all right. My last question. Puddles McNacho Pants says hi. First off.
Hey, Puddles. Sorry, I took your place on the show, Puddles. And that's got to be the best name ever, Puddles McNacho Pants.
Hey, technically I took a spot. It's okay. Go
Okay.
But he asks, do you have your own music on your iPod?
I don't. I have, I have my SoundCloud, which everyone can go to and hear. So I have a SoundCloud app that if I ever want to indulge myself with myself, which sounds weird, I guess.
Yeah, a little disturbing actually.
Yeah.
Just
Forget I
saying.
said that. Rewind. If I ever want to listen to some of the cues from Wildstar or things that I've done, I can go on there and press play on the SoundCloud. But I don't have myself in like my iTunes playlist or anything like that. So
What is on your playlist?
there's a lot of Kesha. Now there's a here's what's interesting. In heavy rotation right now is the Pacific Rim soundtrack, which I think is brilliant.
Really?
Yeah, if you've seen the movie, the movie's good. I think the music is phenomenal, and I don't know, it's phenomenal to me, maybe for different reasons, but I thought it was great. So I listened to a lot of that, and I'm listening to still I'm listening to the Man of Steel soundtrack. How to Train Your Dragon is really in my heavy rotation. Listen to the new Civil Wars album. It's brilliant. If you like the Civil Wars, the new one's awesome, which is folk. Mumford and Sons. It's kind of all.
So,
Yeah, I got Katy Perry and Kesha, and I got everything from like this ridiculous bubblegum pop to film score music to folk, and I don't know. It's kind of all over the place. Whatever I feel like when I hop in the car to drive home, I'm like, what do I feel like right now? And sometimes it's just talk radio because I've heard enough music that day, and I'm just like, I don't want to hear another piece of
that could
music.
be too.
Just
See,
wait.
I talk to people all day, so music's my escape.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just think someday you might go home and your kids will be listening to your music, and that'll be pretty cool.
That would be
yes.
amazing. It's funny because real quick, so when we had the sessions earlier this year, there's one in January we had at Sony, and my family, my two young kids, they were at the time they were 3 and 1, and now they're 4 and 2. But so my daughter Lucy, who was 3 at the time, she was, I told her what I do for a living, but it wasn't really, I don't think it really sunk in. But I was able to kind of take her around into all the different instruments and show her, everyone was super nice, and they would show her, both her and her brother, what the instruments do and how they sound, and she was really into it. And then when ever since she saw me conduct the orchestra and it was kind of taking part of that, she's been running around the house finding whatever she can, a pencil or anything, and she starts conducting. She's like, "Daddy, look at me!" And that's just, there's something rewarding about that, to know that your child, and maybe she's just imitating or whatever, but there's an enthusiasm and excitement for music and for kind of what I'm doing and what I'm attempting to produce with the orchestra, and I just thought that was incredibly heartwarming. So I look forward to more of those moments as they get older, that we can share together, and they might think that Dad's irrelevant and I'm the old guy that doesn't have any taste in music, but but I'm hoping that we can kind of share in some of those moments as my kids grow up with as they see me do more of this, and I think it'd be great. So that's my goal, at least.
It's a good
Great.
goal to have, sir.
That is a great answer. Well, I hope that they continue to help you orchestrate. Who knows? Maybe you'll have a little mini conductor with you one day. How cool would that
You
be?
never know. Yeah, she's been saying, Lucy's been saying she wants to conduct the orchestra at the next session. So maybe I'll have they can play a scale and she can wave the stick around and they can follow the best they can. But she's been pretty excited about it ever since she saw it. So
Oh, that's
you
too cute.
never know what they'll do, but
Nope, kids are amazing. I would be excited to hear Here's Your Musical as well. So who knows?
Yeah, so far they dance a lot, and they sing
Okay.
a lot, but nothing on pitch yet. So we'll see if the pitch dials in at some point.
Oh, so
Are
they
they
sound like
picking up on tempo?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Lucy, she's 4 now. She really loves the drums, and she does a really good job, actually. They both do, but they both do a really good job of playing along with the beat with the drum. So that's pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
So if I can get a rhythm section, if I can get one a drummer, one a bass player, and I'm the piano player, we got
We got a
amazing.
band.
That's it. You don't need anything else.
I'm getting the band back together.
That's right.
Hope you don't like your basement. Oh, too cool. All right. Well, before we wrap up, do you have any other insights that you would like to share, whether about Wildstar or about composing?
Insights about composing or Wildstar. No, I mean, I think we touched on a lot of it, and hopefully hopefully it was somewhat informative, and I apologize for some of the longer answers, but I think when people experience this game, my hope is that what they'll find is if they give me a chance to keep the music on long enough before they decide to hit the kill switch, I think what they'll find, or I hope what they find, is that we've put a lot of effort, myself and the audio team, we've put a lot of effort to make the experience as immersive as we can. And I know MMOs are tough and they're tricky beasts to wrangle because they're so big and there's so many different ways you can go off. But we've done our best to really make the player, like I said before, feel cared for and make them feel like they're part of this world and they're on this adventure. And so, as a composer, it's been a really, really fun challenge to try to, like we talked about before, to try and tell that story in all these different ways, using all these different layers and these different parts of this language. And so everything just got really quiet.
Yeah, it did get quiet. I'm not quite sure why either.
Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, so as a composer, it's been a really fun challenge, and I hopefully everyone is, gets to hear that and experience that. But if there's anyone out there that I would say has a desire to write music or to chase a dream of some sort, I would just say that it's possible. I'm living proof that like people can obtain whatever dream they're going after, and it's never too late to do that. All that kind of the more you know speech. But I really do think that there is a possibility for people to kind of do what you love to do, whether it's as a hobby or it's a job. But I mean, just make sure you fill your life with people that you love and things that you love, and I think everything else can kind of sort itself out. So that would be a deeper insight than just music. I guess that's about life, and we'll save that for the next podcast or the next interview, just about life in general, I guess.
I would love it. That's a good insight.
That's like deep thoughts. That's right.
Yeah, that is.
Please share that all night. What do we need to do? No one needs to have to go anywhere, right? Let's just keep this going.
That's what we need now. Now we need somebody to do a cast about life. We'll have debuffed, deep thoughts. Perfect.
Yeah, you can't beat it.
We have the perfect soundtrack here.
Yes.
That's right. I don't have any sounds up. If I had a piano right now, I'd accompany you, but I don't have any sounds up.
Shoot.
Play me something happy.
Snickers bar, yeah.
I'll be looking for that Snickers commercial. Seriously, that's apparently a thing.
If I could, I would. If they contact me, I would do it.
Well, too cool. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
absolutely, we have loved getting you on here. We so appreciate it. You're so interesting. I hope I can get you back on here because wow, you've had the best life experiences just pursuing your dream. I'm amazed, and
it's been a lot of fun.
And
I would definitely love to come back. And I think as this progresses over the next few months and into early next year, I think we'll have more to talk about and maybe more to reveal and things like that. And so I'd love to hop on again and kind of give you the latest and greatest. So
thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I'd love the opportunity to come back and talk to you, everybody.
Oh,
okay.
We love having you on. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, thank you. All right, well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I love video games, and I love Skyrim.
Woohoo!
Well, that's okay. Now you'll have an idea of something to play and
I
hear
have
some
to go
good
listen to
things
it
too.
now. I hate myself that I don't know that music.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Homework, right?
That's right. Next time I'm gonna sing the crap out of that theme next time I'm on the show.
Yeah. Who knows? You might that one zone you were talking about that was you can't figure it out yet. You might listen to Elder Scrolls Online and be like, "Oh, there it is."
If I just change that one note.
Oh, that might get you in trouble. That might get you in trouble.
We'll see.
Sorry for
Be
doing
careful of that one. Alrighty. Well, before we wrap officially, I have to share our crossword puzzle 37 across. If we could please display that so that everybody can see what I'm talking about. Your hint officially for those following the crossword puzzle 37 across is mission type for the Explorer. Again, 37 across is mission type for the Explorer. Good luck, and enjoy the rest of your crossword puzzle questions. We'll have more coming up each week. All right, and
I love
Jeff, again,
crossword
thank
puzzles.
you
That's
so much
amazing.
for joining us. Cannon, Soul, it's wonderful cast with you guys. Thank you for being here and
Thank you.
making it the fun time that it always is. And guys, for debuffs, have a great night. Thank you, and we'll see you again next week. Also, stay tuned. We're going to play some of Jeff's music for you from Wildstar. Enjoy.
Good night.